Okay, going for a take. Take one. Action.
We are going for a take where we get the take of those who work in the film and TV industry on a specifically chosen film and about their time in the business.
Yep, and today's take is going to be on Alien Romulus. And this is your spoiler warning.
And in today's take, we're joined with actor, writer, producer, director. You might know him from Hollyoaks, Gabriel Clark.
Woo!
Hello.
Ooh.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
That's such a long list. That feels like so self-conscious. You're going to keep going.
The hype
Yeah.
popping off.
Thank you.
Well, how you doing?
I'm really good, thanks. I'm really happy to be here. Very excited to be here because I actually really love the podcast. So I feel like...
Oh, we got a fan.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, I wondered who that
Any
random
chance
guy
to chat
that
about
keeps like
film?
liking it was.
Yes, that's me. One of my many fake
Gabriel
accounts.
1, 2, 3.
Stuff like
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been like a really intense, mad August. I've been going up and down to like Edinburgh, London, Greece, and finally like properly back in Manchester. And,
Holidaying or for the fringe or?
holidaying / writing in Greece. I had a week off, and it was the most like impromptu thing I've ever done. I was going to bed. It was crap weather because it's Bolton that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm free until Friday. I just need to do a bit of writing. Why am I writing from Bolton? Went on Skyscanner and like found this dead cheap flight at 3 a.m. in the morning. I was like, well, I could just book it.
That same night?
That same night. I
Wow.
was like,
I rate that.
but I thought, like, oh, no, I can't. Like,
possibly.
I need to ask someone. I could, like, and I was like, hold on, I'm an adult. I can. And I just, as a joke, like, pressed book, but then didn't think it would like go through. But all my card details were already in there, so it's like booked. I was like, oh, shit. So I had to like jump out of bed, pack my suitcase, and like in the taxi to the airport, I was like on booking.com trying to find somewhere to stay. Wow. It was brilliant. Like the next morning, like, less than 12 hours later, I was on the beach, and I didn't actually get that much writing done, but it was a really lovely week. But actually what was really nice was like, because it was too hot to like type or anything, I'm like, I'm not going to take my laptop to the beach. Got a notepad, and it was the first time in ages. It actually made me really aware of like how bad my handwriting's got. But it's the first time in ages I like wrote by hand and was going, oh my God, like it's so nice writing and not like correcting your writing as you go along, because I'm not going backspace. Oh no, that sounds better. Just got to keep going.
What were you writing?
Oh,
Are you allowed to say?
yeah, I'm writing 2 new plays at the moment.
Okay, cool.
So I was sort of jumping between the two when I got bored of writing one.
What plays are they? Where are they being shown at?
I actually don't know yet. They're very much like, one is being developed by a few different places, and the other I'm gonna apply to a few things. It got basically 2 things that I got shortlisted for earlier this year and didn't get. So I was like, oh well, I'm bitter, and like put it down for ages, and then realised that I actually really liked the ideas. But it was sort of backwards. Like often you write something and then you put it out there, and if it's received well, you might get some nice accolades for it. But I did it sort of the wrong way around. Like I sort of pitched these 2 things, got shortlisted for these 2 awards. I was like, oh damn, like the idea's good, but I've actually not got the play, and now I've got people chasing me up asking for them. So I went to Greece and just swam every day instead of wrote.
That's like the epitome of procrastination.
Yeah.
Let's book a flight.
Well, I've given
just go
myself the
swim.
deadline of the end of August, which I realise is in a few days. So I'm not gonna make that deadline. But
And instead you're here doing a podcast too.
But this is more fun, and I
Yeah.
get to talk about Alien, which I love.
Yes,
So,
yeah, you're like the ideal guest to get on, because this guy did his whole dissertation on Alien.
yep. On gender and sexuality in sci-fi film. And
I'm fascinated.
Alien was
like
my
the
like,
amount of information you've been dropping already. I'm like,
I literally like reread my dissertation today, spoke about Alien in it, how Wall-E is a queer romance because they're 2 asexual robots that have no gender. So actually that's our first Pixar gay film.
Right.
And Alien and The Fifth Element, if anyone's watched that.
Oh,
I'm like massive sci-fi.
I don't think I have. Is that the one with Gary Oldman?
Yes, Luc Besson, like the sort of
Yeah.
slightly problematic French director made in the 90s, like Bruce Willis. It is so camp,
Why is he
brilliant.
problematic?
Like,
I'm so intrigued now.
Yeah.
oh, he like.
'Cause he did what's the one with young Natalie Portman and Old J have a song about it. Matilda? Leon.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I think there's like allegations and stuff have come out about him, which.
Oh no.
That's a womp.
But
Never mind.
it's worthwhile film watching just for like the 90s nostalgia, and it's got a lot of like interesting phallic imagery, as do all
does
Alien
Alien.
films.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the shots in Alien, like what you told me, like before we started filming, and now thinking about those shots, they just make sense.
Yeah.
It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, like there were a lot of sexual innuendos in that Alien Romulus film.
Which was your favourite sexual innuendo in
When
Alien?
he-
Tell us, Adam.
When he shoves his electric baton
Yeah.
into the
Into the what?
Say it.
vagina-looking alien sack
Say that one more
Yeah.
time.
and
The big
electrocutes
alien
the
pussy.
alien inside.
But it comes out as like an electric alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But it's that beautiful thing about like this sort of abject horror. There's a brilliant theorist called Julia Kristeva, and she wrote about the idea of like femininity in horror and how there's this monstrous feminine, how women in horror are often portrayed as like evil with like witches, but also this idea of like the abject horror, and like we all have this deep-rooted psychological fear of being sucked back into the womb. And that's sort of what Alien plays off. And the original film drew a lot from that sort of critical theory. But that moment when, what's he called? John, the character, John? I don't know how you pronounce it. Bjorn.
Yeah.
When he like shoves his rod into that alien vagina and then goes right up to it being like dead, hyper heterosexual, like stereotypical image of the man in the film where the woman's cowering in the corner and he's going to save her. And he puts his head right up to that like vagina image thinking, all right, I've won. And then a phallic penis thing comes out and kills him.
Yeah.
And it's that perfect. That's what I love about Alien is like, and about like sexuality and gender in sci-fi, like how you can so easily blend the two and challenge expectations and also like counteract and like challenge heteronormativity, and that moment of a really like hyper heterosexual man going up to that thing. And it's the sort of blending and that blur of the lines of gender between male and female, masculine and feminine, and this thing comes out and kills him. And I just think
Those
that's so
face
exciting.
huggers as well. They were very.
They've got a vagina that with this appendage comes out of.
They just deep throating
H.R. Geiger.
reproduce their aliens, which I found quite disturbing.
It's horrific. Like if you get time,
Was it deliberate all these sexual innuendos?
completely deliberate. So when they made the first Alien, this is okay. Dissertation.
Cool.
doesn't come out.
Dissertation time.
When they made the first Alien film, Ridley Scott got in touch with this incredible, I think he's Swiss, artist called H.R. Geiger, and his style of art is called it's called biomechanical art. So it's like a blend of machine and human, but it's very psychosexual. So like there's these images of what became the alien that Ridley Scott looked at and he was like, that's it. That's my alien. Got in touch with this guy. He came and designed it. He was originally just going to design the alien. Then he designed the whole world. He designed the planet, the spaceship. And then they got a different designer to design all the human elements. And they did the same with Alien Romulus. So which is why there's like that sort of cassette futurism of like those big chunky TVs and the nice like padded walls they've got. And then that weird, completely different world of design of the alien world. But H.R. Geiger, who did the Alien world, is this really interesting. I think he died in 2014, but he was an incredible artist. But it's very like psychosexual. It's like the alien's head is like it's a dick, and he designed all of the images. Like, and the face hugger is a vagina that a penis comes out of. Right. But even to the point where like Ridley Scott was like, okay, this is too much. When he designed those eggs. And in the first film, the egg originally opened up with 2 flaps. And Ridley Scott was like, no, that's too much. So they made it 4, which is just then even weirder. And then inside it in the first, they've not done it since because it's probably like, not illegal, but I guess you can do it cheaper. But they didn't really have much money. So they used like cow and pig intestines inside, put like an explosive in and shoved this thing that looks like a penis out. So all these guts flew everywhere. When it jumps onto John Hurt's face in that first one. But it's very intentionally like, if you're watching Alien thinking, does that look like a vagina? It's not you. It is. It does look like a vagina.
You don't have issues.
Do you know what though? The original Alien and the new Alien, what I liked about how true to the original it was, like it was a complete, almost like a remake, like it took elements of it, but the futuristic elements of the first one when it was made are still the futuristic elements of the new one. And for me that was quite interesting to watch, because the futuristic elements you watch now, they're not really that futuristic. Because if you look at like the cryopod, for example, these things are being made in like our lives at the moment, but in the alien world, like this is set 20 years later, and this is new technology. So we see this, and it's like it just sets us in a world that is so different yet so similar. One question I wanted to ask you, Gabriel, was who do you think were the bad guys?
Oh, that's what I love about Alien. Like the title is like intentionally misleads you, and all the promotion misleads you. Like the posters are like they're on all the buses that you're seeing of like the big alien carrying down above them. Obviously, the alien's like the threat, but it's just a creature. It's just an animal. It's like, is Jaws the baddie? Well, maybe Jaws is more like antagonistic because it's going for them. But in Alien, like the baddie is the corporation. It's capitalism ultimately, in my opinion. It's Weyland Yutani, like, and I feel like it's almost really so clearly shown in Romulus, like right at the beginning when Rain and Andy go up and she thinks, oh, finally, like, I can get off world. Like I've done my time here. My parents are dead. And she goes up to them and they're like, no, sorry, change the rules. You're going to stay in this mine for another 4 years. And like stamps that thing on her papers and goes right by. You know there, like the value that capitalism and this corporation place on the lives of humans.
Yeah. And I was wondering with that moment, is it because, you know, is it just a sort of malicious moment, or like not even malicious, it's just like cargo trying to leave, must keep her here for now. Or if it's actually because her parents died, so she's had to take on the debt of what that work expenditure would have been from her parents, and they've gone, oh, your parents are dead, cool, let's put all those hours that they owed us onto you. It's a heavy moment. But I also like how they do it in the film, because it's so quickly done. It just establishes this is the colony, this is what's happening, and this is the corruption that's happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, cool, and let's go see some aliens.
And you so understand her drive then as a character. I feel like from that moment I was like, right, I'm on board, and like I root for her. I know why she wants to escape. And also like just that opening with like those orange hues, they're like really gritty. Like for me, like that's the sci-fi I love, is like that Star Wars aesthetic of like that gritty, like worn down, lived in world. And like the sort of Blade Runner, like misty haze. And like it's opening with that, with like those trucks, everything's really dirty. Everyone looks like they're having a shit time. I was like, right, I'm having a good time now. This is what I'm here for. Honestly, I was feasting on that. It's beautiful, but it's so effective as well. Like it was just in, and you're like, okay, I'm on board.
And for the actors as well, like I was watching a lot of behind the scenes content from when the production was, and they created the set, and what we see, they see. And that was the big idea behind it, was they wanted to immerse the actors in an environment where they would be scared, not a green box where they've got to pretend to be scared. Or find ways of being scared. They wanted the aliens to be real. They wanted the environment to be real. They shot it in chronological order, which is mental.
That's so cool, isn't it?
Mental. Like the budget must have been crazy for that, because
in a way, like, sort of makes sense. Like, if you've got all the sets there and you know at the end you're going to blow them up, like you know you've got to do that last. You might as well go, oh, we'll just do it in order. It's is what it is.
If you had ever played, has any of you ever played Alien Isolation, the video game?
Played a bit.
Is that the video game?
Demo.
So they used a lot of that for inspiration for Romulus, specifically for like sneaking about scenes and whatnot. So you get a lot of that atmosphere from that same game. But I remember, if you've seen Prometheus, it's like way before even Alien 1. It basically explains the origin of the alien, and basically these other aliens are basically called the engineers, who basically created humans, were planning to come and wipe out humans on Earth, and they were bringing this bioweapon, but they lost control of it, and then the humans sort of came and interacted with it and started experimenting with it, and a guy ingested it and impregnated a woman, and she gave birth to this alien, and then this other alien infected one of the engineers, and then like the very first like xenomorph came out.
I loved how this one bridged that gap between Prometheus and the original Alien films as well, with that like horrible creature at the end, but with that black goo. And you sort of understood even then like who the true villain was. Like all the way back in Prometheus, it's that corporation who are
Mother.
Mother.
It's Mother.
They're trying to harness that thing to But ultimately, like,
Waiting.
why are they trying to harness it to create medicine? But they're not going to give it away for free. Like, they've created this thing that in their eyes can save humanity, can, like, we see that, like, they're suffering, they've got all these different diseases.
I think all they cared about was making it a weapon.
Yeah.
Because I think during one of the scenes in Prometheus, the guy who drinks the black liquid first before the xenomorph becomes
when
a
he,
thing,
like, falls into the
he
waterfall.
sort of turns into a zombie. So I think Wayland corporations were basically planning on taking that black liquid and using it as a bioweapon.
Yeah.
And I think if they did that and took it back to Earth, there would have been a whole different version of this movie franchise. It would have been about zombies instead of xenomorphs. You know?
But yeah, corporations,
Yeah.
evil, capitalism. It's all about selling and making money. I think even like in this film especially, like what they're trying to escape from is not the aliens at the end of the day. It's the ship.
Yeah.
It's the ship that's crashing, and it's that like Rook, the science officer, going, okay, like our prime objective is to take that black goo, complete the mission. Humans are expendable. The aliens are incidental. They're just there as a byproduct. And you couldn't care.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened without humans, and humans were the cause of it in the first place. And I think there's a lot of parallels between the world we're living in and the film, in terms of like that capitalism. The whole film, in the first film, Alien, and then in this film, the objective is exactly the same, and it's the same mission 20 years later, so nothing's changed. But it makes it look like it's changed. And then when it says like, Mother, what's the primary objective? And then it says like humans are expendable. Like, you then see who the real villain is, because these aliens, like, they're just there. Like, it was just floating in space, and they brought it into the ship, and then they experimented to see what it was out of curiosity. And next thing you know, the whole ship's gone, and they then go up in a new hope of trying to be like, okay, well, we can get out of here now. This is an escape for us, and realize that the escape is also part of the trap.
Yeah. Because they actually achieved their objective in the first sort of act of the film, which was to get those cryopods. Like, they get it relatively quick. It's then where the true villain and their actual objective, the challenge of escaping the ship, comes in.
Because I read somewhere recently online on Instagram that I think it's Germany or Sweden, basically experimenting now with cryogenic technology. They're basically trying to freeze humans to bring back years later.
Wow.
Would you do it?
Yeah, would you volunteer?
Would I do that?
Would you?
No,
like
I think
Walt
no.
Disney, how he had his head frozen.
Do you think there would be a planet? Like, this is the thing. Like,
Oh, okay, we're getting dark.
yeah,
But I think
creepy.
it's quite like the parallels that we're living in right now are scarily similar to the ones in Romulus. How corporations have sort of taken over like everything and are using humans as cattle.
Yeah.
And people have no choice but to work for them or to starve to death.
Yeah. I've often thought as well, just as a weird little thought that pops in my brain now and again, how much, like, through artistry, sci-fi or whatever, how much did that change what we thought the future was going to look like? And so our architecture then became, it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I don't know, they made a film back in the 60s and the future looked like this. So now when we make buildings now, that's what in our brains we think the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
So, you know, when they started talking about cryopods in like sci-fi back in the day, and now they're making them for real now, was that because someone started talking about it then, and so that planted the seed, which means that it's just life imitating art? I
think if you can think of it, people will figure out a way to make it happen, specifically through science. I mean, if you go back in centuries back, medieval times, and people saw the stuff that we have now, they'd consider that as magic. Science would be considered as magic because of what we're capable of doing now. So I think it's what's possible now from like hundreds of years now into the future. But we wouldn't even be able to comprehend right now.
Makes you think what stuff is being written in science fiction now.
Yeah.
That is going to predict and fulfill what our future in 300 years will look like.
Because
There's a one TV show, I can't remember what it is, but it's how they catch villains, like not villains, how they catch criminals, and it's like they have everybody's mind like on a system, and they can see when someone's thinking a thought that might lead them into like down the line committing a crime, and they catch them before the crime happens.
Wow.
It's like those Black Mirror moments when you go,
Yeah.
oh my god, that was in Black Mirror a few years ago, or like that episode nosedive with the social media and like all your validation coming from that. Obviously, like the Prime Minister having sex with the pig, and even like something tiny as that, and then you go, oh, David Cameron,
15 million credits, 15 million credits, like crypto, or what are the Black Mirror episodes?
all of them.
Yeah,
Literally
there's the one
bizarre.
about the deepfakes, one of the newest series where
AI.
'cause it was the first time I started looking at my actual contracts. Because she has that one with Netflix or whatever where she signs it and then they start using. Is it Salma Hayek?
Yeah.
Like she starts seeing her face everywhere.
And I was like, I should start looking at my contracts too. And then as I'm looking at it, I'm like, we'll use your imagery and voice in perpetuity in the known universe. That's on all
But
our
you think
contracts.
like 10
when we
years
look at
ago on
that.
a contract, you're like, okay, that's just going to be my face on a few posters. Whereas now,
Yeah.
like, well, I guess that's like I've got a question for you guys in this film with like using your likeness. They brought back Ian Holm, the actor who died, who was Ash in the first film. Science Officer Rook, they're like the replicant with the half body. I thought it was really clever because obviously he's meant to be damaged, and they reached out to his estate, and like Fede Alvarez like contacted his widow and said, we want to do this. And so I was watching an interview, and she was apparently really happy because he loved that film and was
that's sweet.
like felt towards the end of his career that like Hollywood didn't value him, and she said that he would have said yes. But like, what do you guys think about this like thing that sort of started with Rogue One of bringing actors back digitally who have died?
I think
I feel like we should put a little like asterisk in here if any like Netflix or anyone like in the future is listening to this and uses this as
Bring me back.
no.
I feel like it depends on the project, and it's all circumstances. Like
I think it depends on the person.
exactly, and like the project, the person, the people who will see it, because if their family's watching it, then they have to be happy with it as well. If I think about it from my point of view, if I'd passed away and some of my family knew that I wanted to do a certain film, and they were like this is the sequel to one you did, then that would be a conversation that they'd have to have. But what about you, Gabriel?
I think you're right. I think it depends on the context.
Yeah.
I feel like with Alien Romulus, they definitely went about it in, I feel, the right way, like reaching out to their estate first.
Yeah.
And I think crucially, it wasn't for a cameo, because when he first appeared, I was like, oh my God, that's Ash from the first film.
Yeah.
But thought it was going to be like one of those, like, oh, they're just in it for a few seconds and then he gets blown up. And I think, oh,
Easter
well.
egg.
But it also like begs the question, like a lot of actors who I've heard of have signed contracts, and their image is being used as AI in movies and whatnot, without them even being paid. So it's like you're going to be out of
such
work,
a fine line.
and they basically own your image. So you got to. I think
It's that scary thing of, like you were saying, of like technology is.
I mean,
like we're catching up with sci-fi films from the past, but this technology is so new that actually, like, the technology is ahead of the laws that surround it. And even with social media, I still feel like the laws are only just coming in now.
it's just progressively getting worse and worse, getting more advanced.
But with AI as well, this tech will develop so quickly. I feel like
It
that's
develops
why,
itself as well. And
Yeah,
I think
but that's
there
why the
should be-
actors were on strike last year as well in America. Was about AI, and I feel like it's really valuable that we do have these conversations and go, okay, well, work out how we feel, but not necessarily. But I think ultimately, like, it's even if we feel, I don't know how I'd feel about that, it's going to happen anyway. So it's more about bringing in, like you're saying, make sure you're getting paid for it. It's your likeness, and
I think they should bring it in, but it should be like moderated.
Yeah.
The government should bring in regulations to keep it in control, and not let it.
And obviously, like, we're talking about it in the storytelling context, but like politically, even now, like with the US election, there's so many deep fakes going around, and you can't tell what's real and what's not. But
You
I
never
think
know
within
what you're...
film, like if it serves the story and it's done respectfully, which I feel that in Alien Romulus it was, and it wasn't for a cameo, it was like an actual character.
Yeah.
I feel like it was done well, and we're still at a point where, like, the technology, often you watch it and it's like, oh, that's a bit janky, but because he was meant to be like a malfunctioning robot, I feel like they got away with it.
Yeah.
And I think it was quite nice then tying it in with the world of, oh, he's that, like, he's that range of replicants, so they've all got the same face.
And also, just before we wrap on the film section, they brought in the original crew as well to work with the crew that they had. So they would have had an understanding as well of working on the original one of how they wanted to represent the characters and how they could have done it justice without doing it for a cash grab of, oh, let's put his face on there and that'll bring in an extra set of audience because like, oh, Ian Holm's in it. Like, I think it served its purpose, and I think it was very well done. And it was the way they went about it was the right way of how it should be.
Yeah,
As
a nice
a
surprise.
huge fan of the series, were there any things that just felt slightly off about it?
I don't think anything that's. What was nice was there was a load of moments where it was like set up based on for like fans of Alien. Like there was moments where you thought, oh, they're gonna do what they did in Alien Resurrection, but then they flipped it, and I thought it was a really nice like setup and reversal. So like even like the face hugger when it jumps on the Navarro at the beginning and they pull it off. And I was like, oh, like seeing that the appendage like come up through her throat was disgusting.
Yeah.
But seeing that, and then you're going, oh, isn't it? But then that chest busting moment still happens, and it's dead satisfying. But even like when Kay gives birth at the end to that alien human hybrid, but the same thing happened in Alien 4.
Yeah.
And when that alien goes up to Ripley and hugs her.
Yeah.
And then when that alien and I thought, oh my god, it's going to do the same that it did in Alien Resurrection. It's going to go and hug her, and it killed her. It killed her, or its own mum. And I think those moments of like callbacks to previous Alien films worked because they weren't just like it didn't feel like fan service in that it felt like, oh, is this just a fan service moment? But no, it like reversed it. There were also like the fan service lines of like, get away from her, you bitch.
You bitch, yeah.
And those the line that Ian Holm has of like, you have my sympathies, and those moments coming back were nice, but it didn't feel too. I also loved did anyone get the Michael Jackson reference in it?
Michael Jackson.
Which one was that?
When Rain goes up to Andy and she goes, Andy, are you okay? Are you okay, Andy?
Are you okay?
I was like, oh, I liked that.
That's niche. I didn't know that existed with him being in the universe.
That's a good one. And the ending as well was the same as the original Alien, where they blast it away from the ship, and it's so hard. I watched the second one last night to have a little recap. And you see it attached to the bottom, and then like trying to get away from it. Was that sort of vibe in a new, potentially it's not a remake, but it sort of was a new version of
it. Feels like
it could go somewhere else.
It feels like a reboot for a new generation. Like all of them are young actors, all of them are people we don't know about.
And also, there's that horrible, tall, white, pasty, thin thing still out
like
there.
Slender Man.
Oh, it was disgusting.
Yes.
That gave me nightmares. That was disgusting.
On that lovely note, I think that's a wrap.
It is. Oh.
Good.